The mechanism that got me to take things from inception to completion is what you see behind me, B-sides. I've learned this in my radio broadcast booth. I stumbled upon a marketing strategy the music industry used to create superstars, to take songs to chart-topping success. And I've made that work for small businesses. Now, for those of you who have never been inside a radio broadcast booth, let me paint the picture for you. First, it's a very lonely existence. 6x9 booth is what I was in. It's kind of like a jail cell when you think about it. No bars, though. I had a glass case, all surrounded in glass. There's a mixer here and a couple turntables here, a boom microphone that would come down as I'm about ready to speak, headphones I would put on as I'm about to go on the air. To my left, there'd be cart machines. This is where we play the commercials manually in the old days. Now it's all computerized. And at my kneecaps, vinyl records, dozens if not hundreds of LPs and 45s stacked deep, even overflowing in the next room. And while all of you were listening to music, what us radio DJs are doing, we're thumbing through the LPs and we're reading liner notes, learning as much as we can about the artists and those recordings to share all that with you on the air. I'm going through the 45s one day. Those are the small disc records. Those are the little 7-inch discs. The biggest selling product in the history of music. And I'm beginning to understand the dichotomy between the A side and the B side of the 45 RPM single. And what I found out is there was a real purpose behind both. We knew the A side was the hit. That was the one the radio DJs played because the record producers would say, play this. They put their advertising dollars behind it. You would hear that song on the radio, you'd run to the record store and buy it. But what was that B side? Filler? Throwaway, right? That's what we all thought. I came to understand differently. I came to understand the B-side served a very useful purpose in the food chain of the music industry. And what it was a lure. That B-side record was meant to lure us in, create a greater fan experience, and send us shopping. So if we like that B-side just a little bit, we're going to say, hey, I like 2 songs now. Maybe I should go out and buy the full-length album, 10 songs on the album. I'm 1/5 of the way there. If I like that album, I might buy more albums. If I buy more albums, I might buy concert tickets. I might buy merchandise. You might watch your favorite artist or group on American Bandstand or The Ed Sullivan Show or Soul Train or MTV or an award show. And of course, advertisers advertise on those shows to make them possible. So hopefully in turn, you'll buy some of their products. It's all part of the food chain. The food chain started with the B-side lure. That's what lured you in. Now think about this. We have lures in our business, or we should. They're all around us. You go to the supermarket checkout. What do you see? Every type of gum known to mankind, breath mints, cell chargers, gift cards, magazines. It's all there to lure you in. You go pump gasoline in your car. Probably never thought you were going to leave the gas station with a hot dog and a big gulp because the pump topper told you to go get it. It's 3:15. It's time to go to the movies. So you rush to the movies. You get your ticket. You get your popcorn. You get your drink. You rush in there to sit for 20 minutes through trailers. Those are lures to bring you in. You might hate the movie you're about to see, but they've already set it up to succeed because they have that lure to say the next one's going to be better. You're a fisherman. You have a lake full of fish, the best rod and reel money can buy. You cast out, how many fish you think you're going to catch if you don't have a hook or a lure on the other side of the line? 0. We all need lures in our business. So the B-side was a lure that the music industry put in place, but something really interesting happened along the way. Along the way, radio DJs, long before myself, started listening to these B-side records off air, in queue, and saying to themselves, that's a really good song. I think I have an audience for that. I think I have people who would like this song. And they would play that song on the air, and time again, these songs would go viral. In those days, viral meant one station would play it and many others would. Next thing you know, you've got a top 10 hit on your hands because 500 stations across the U.S. are playing it. A radio DJ gave those songs a chance, not once, not twice, but hundreds of times. And they would play these songs and take them to superstardom. I'm going through the 45s one day, and I find I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, the biggest disco hit of all time. And I'm thinking to myself, why is that on the B side? The A side was a little-known song called Substitute. I go back a little further to 1965, Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, the biggest ballad in recorded music history. And I'm thinking, why is that on the B side? The A side was called Hung on You. I go back further to 1955 and the song that started the rock and roll revolution, Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets. It stood 8 weeks at #1 on the Billboard charts and is credited as being the song that started rock and roll. And it's on the B side. The A side was a song called 13 Women and Only One Man in Town. Great for the man, not so good for the song. It went nowhere. But time and time again, radio DJs were giving these B-sides a second chance to survive. Songs like Maggie May, which kicked off the solo career of Rod Stewart. La Bamba, Tequila, hundreds more, because they gave it a second chance. And that got me thinking about reinvention. I've got B-sides. I've got B-sides, things in my back burner that I could bring out and start focusing on. And you've got them too. You see, back here, you've got thoughts, ideas, passions, skills, talents, and hobbies. And all you got to do is bring them out. Every once in a while, let them work for you. And we're going to get there in just a moment when we get to idea. Identify, dedicate, execute, and act. Ways that you could put something in place to where your B-sides will stand out as so unique, people will search you out because nobody does what you do. But see, the B-sides of the music business were ready to go. They were already in place, ready to happen. They were already great songs. Your B-sides aren't ready yet. Let me explain what happened. The B-side records, when you have a songwriter that writes a song and spends a dozen hours on it, they hand it off to the musicians who works their instrumental parts and they work their percussion parts and vocal harmonies and they get all that together, right? They work on that first and then they get together as a band. Then they go in the recording studio and lay that on the tracks, which could take all day. They work on these songs all day and you might have hundreds of hours or dozens at least into one song. Only for a record producer to say, that song's not good enough. That's a B-side. Oh, that one there's a hit. That one's not. And I could just picture the looks on the musicians saying, well, thanks a lot. We really worked our tail off on that. You got one guy in the executive chair saying that's not good enough. But those songs were good enough. They were ready to go. Now think about this from a standpoint of your B-sides. The things you have in your back burner, your untapped skills and talents that we're going to bring out in just a moment. Your untapped skills and talents, are they ready to go? Are they up to par with the A-sides, the things that are working great in your life and career? Can you imagine how powerful this could be when you start working on the stuff that needs to be worked on and bring them up to speed, make them to where they're ready to go? That is when your business is going to take off. I've created some of the most unique things in my marketplace and nobody can touch me because people search me out because I do so many unique different things. You see, this B-sides methodology, and again, this is for chart-topping success in the music business, which can be totally adapted to what we do in small business. This B-side methodology may have started off years ago, but it's still all around us today, especially in music. Back in the old days when they got rid of the vinyl record, along came the compact disc. It's by no mistake they called it a CD single. That was to capitalize, which worked so well with the 45 RPM single, to get you to buy the bigger product, the album. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They had to call it a single because that's what was luring people in. That's what worked. In the 80s, we had music videos. We still have them today. They're very popular with the VMA Awards, right? Music videos is a great lure. This time, the B-side lure comes in the form of a visual lure. Now you got to see your favorite artist or group, follow a storyline, maybe see them in concert, get to know their fashions and personality, all part of a visual lure. Do you remember in the 1990s and 2000s, you guys would buy a greatest hit CD and they would put a couple new songs on it that you never heard of before? Didn't you hate that? Oh, I couldn't stand that. But you know what that was? That was a B-side. They put that on there to introduce the new music to the old fan base, or the old music to somebody who's hearing that song for the first time. It's a trick. It's a lure. That's what the music industry did to create millions of dollars and impact fans and create great songs. It's a lure. It's a B-side trick. The more popular B-side today is remix songs. So now when Bruno Mars or Britney Spears comes up with a new song, there might be 10 different remixes of it. There might be an indie remix, a techno remix, a hip-hop remix, all meant to grab that demographic and bring them in and introduce them to the music of Bruno Mars and Britney Spears. Do you love going to concerts? In the old days, we'd buy a concert ticket and hope for the best seat possible. Not any longer. They B-sided it with the VIP experience. So now, you could pay a little higher premium, sit in the first 10 rows, and maybe get a signed program. Pay a little bit more money, sit in the first 5 rows, and maybe go backstage and meet your favorite artist or group. We couldn't do that years ago. If someone had told me, Larry, you could save your allowance money, your money from mowing the lawn, and paper route money, and at the end of the year, you can go backstage and hang out with Led Zeppelin. I would have been all over that. Not only would I have been all over that, it would have changed my life. It would have been another one of those defining moments. But they've created that now. Did you know Paul Stanley from the rock group Kiss smashes a guitar at every concert? Since 1974. Now you can get that actual guitar that Paul Stanley smashes on stage, and you can go backstage where he'll sign it and personally hand it to you in pieces. It's yours to keep, suitable for framing. It's a beautiful thing. So throughout the 1990s and 2000s, I would B-side everything around me. Just like that recording project. I would B-side things for my business, for my church, for the radio station, personally, and I'd be known as the guy that's always got something going. I've always got a B-side. And people would come up to me and say, Larry, you're always up to something. You're always doing a project. What are you doing now? And I said, I'm B-siding something. They say, what's that? I said, oh, it's just radio jargon. Never mind. I use it as a personal self-improvement mechanism, and I share it with nobody. I'm sharing it with you today because I am positive it could change your entire life and career. I'm positive it will do this, but you got to think like a rock star. Let me explain how rock stars think. They come up with a new set of songs, a new album every year or two, right? New concert tours that are different than the last, right? The reason they do this is to keep it fresh. But you see, they're coming up with new music, but they're not learning a new skill set. They're not learning anything new. When you hear Pitbull or Enrique Iglesias or any of these, Adele singing a new song, it's not because they learned how to sing any differently. They're just doing a different interpretation of that song. I'm not going to ask you guys to learn any new skills. I want you to think differently, but you don't have to learn any new skills. I am positive in this audience, we have people that have amazing talents that are not being put to use. And now we're going to do it. So your B-side development begins with an idea. I promise this is how you can stand out from everybody in your marketplace. The acronym is identify, dedicate, execute, and act. Starts with this. You have to decide what it is you want to work on. It could be something as simple as a brochure or a business card. But you're not just going to create any business card. You're going to create the most outstanding business card because you've researched it, you work with people in the know about it, and you're going to create something completely unique. You might have a passion. I worked with a bride and groom one day who were, they were school teachers for an elementary school. And I happen to know the elementary school they worked for was a very impoverished, low-income elementary school. They said, Larry, we don't want to take wedding gifts. Any other ideas? We got to thinking about it, and we talked about the profession. I got to know my client. I said, what is it that you can do in your school or something like that? You're very passionate about your work. They said, well, our kids, we work with a lot of low-income kids. They don't have a lot. What can we do for them? So we tossed around some ideas about pens and paper and some of the supplies they need, because this was a summer wedding. And of course, school started in September. So the subject of backpacks came up. I said, what if in lieu of everybody bringing a wedding gift, they could bring a backpack? And they thought that was a great idea. Next thing you know, we have 80 backpacks, 3 barrels full of backpacks that we had to bring out to the car during the reception. It's because we B-sided. We thought of something different, thought of something outside the box, and put it together. We identified the need, we dedicated ourselves to the effort, we executed the plan, and we acted upon it. I worked with a wedding planner on the East Coast who was sick and tired of ministers, or officiants, I should call them, who kept showing up late for events. She says, what can I do? I said, well, aside from staying breach of contract, there's not a lot you can do. I mean, you got to get them to take it seriously, but sometimes, they're just running late because sometimes they stack too many events, right? Or they don't do their due diligence and know exactly where they're going. They get lost on the route. So I said, why don't you go out and get your officiant license? She said, I can't do that. I said, you love to talk more than me. Of course you can. You're the most organized person I know. Why not? So she put it together as a whole package. She has actually had to do a couple step in because the minister was late 15 or 20 minutes. She went in and saved the day. And she has a separate package set up to be an officiant at celebration. She's a wedding planner and she can be an officiant. Now that's taking your skill set to a different level. Could be a project. Could be a talent you have. It could be a collaborative. It could be you need to network more. What are the processes you're going to put in place to do all this? It could be a hobby. You could be a facility manager, and your husband might be into classic cars. It's possible. Put a project or a package together that has for the like the oldies theme or the Great Gatsby theme or the Roaring Twenties theme or Rat Pack theme, to where he could bring out 3 classic cars. You work with the photography assistant to take pictures of everybody in period costume prior to the celebration or during the celebration. You got to think outside the box and put things together that are uniquely different. Next is dedicate. You put a plan in place. Once you've identified what it is you do, what it is your B-side that you can put in place, then you got to think about how to dedicate yourself to the effort. Will it require a team? Are there costs involved? How are you going to dedicate yourself to putting the pieces of this puzzle together before you get started? Put a plan in place. Will it require a team? Are there costs? Time management. How much time are you willing to spend on it? That is a napkin that I drew in 1994 at a friend's house. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there would be like a jukebox theme entertainment system for like oldies car shows and motorcycle shows and rodeos and county fairs? It would look like that. It would be a jukebox on a trailer. Wouldn't that be awesome? We're sitting around the table in his house and saying, that's cool. It would look like this. It would look like a big Wurlitzer jukebox. They'd see it from blocks away. And you know what? A lot of people say, you can't do that. Let me tell you something right now. If somebody tells you you can't do it, that's the project you want to work on, is the one that someone tells you it can't be done. Anything can be done if you have the talent, passion, and drive to do it. So people told me I couldn't do this. Now, I will tell you, I did the project. It came in way over budget. I budgeted $20,000 because I picked a price out of the sky, just like some of our customers do on the budget. I thought, $20,000, that ought to get it. No, it came in at $38,000, so I completely mismanaged that. But take a look at the conceptual drawing on a napkin and what happened 2 years later. I had to work with the Wurlitzer Corporation to use their name. I had to work with trailer builders and welders. I had to work with sound engineers. I had to work with graphic artists. I put a whole team together. I dedicated myself to the effort. Nothing is so far-fetched that you can't do it. You need to put signature pieces together for your business that'll stand out on their own and be uniquely different than everybody. Next is to execute. Put your plan in place. Put it in motion. Think of the execution as something along the lines of the recording studio, where they do take 1 and take 2. It's the beta testing. You might have to rip up the script several times and start all over again. When you execute and you have all these people in place, you're not going to back out. You're going to get it done no matter what it takes. So the execution of the plan is making sure you do it once, do it twice. They told Walt Disney, you cannot possibly make an hour-and-a-half cartoon movie. He didn't listen to them. He had Imagineers, he had storyboarders, and he would put this together, and they won 7 Academy Awards. If they're telling you it can't be done, you can do it. And you'll have a signature piece in your business that everybody will remember. So you execute the plan. And finally is the action step. You see it through to completion. Sometimes when we have a plan or a project or whatever it is, we're creating brochures, if we're creating a big event of any sort, we seem to think, okay, it's done. How come the phone's not ringing? When you got your plan or your B-side put together, that's just the beginning. Now, how are you going to market that? How are you going to take it to market? How are you going to get it out there and have it work? How are you going to make it work at the bridal fair? How are you going to draw people and lure them to you to let you know you've got something going on that's different? You see, we've spent years of our lives being who we are. We do not have to become somebody different. We don't have to learn new skill sets necessarily. In fact, the more unique we are, the better. Utilize the skills you already have and B-side them. Entertainment legend Dick Clark once said, music is the soundtrack of our lives. And I really believe that. It permeates everything around us. It's intermixed in our daily routine. It's the universal language. Think of a song right now that is your go-to song when you're feeling down. Or maybe that upbeat song that ramps you up right before a workout and gets you energized. We all have these favorites, right? Somewhere back here, there's a songwriter that has no idea that all these years later, that song is still making a strong emotional connection with you. That's how I felt. I never knew my song, J.C. Lee, had any value past 1991 or 1992. But apparently it did. I'd like to think that everything we do in life has value and purpose and makes an emotional connection. It does. What you guys are doing are extraordinary. But see, no one's ever going to chase you down on the street and grab you by the shoulder, turn you around and say, thank you. We just got to hope and pray that the things we do in life has strong emotional connection and value. Like I said, we spent years of our lives being who we are. We don't have to become somebody different. We don't have to learn a new skill set. Back here, you've got the B-sides. You've got thoughts, ideas, passions, skills, talents, and hobbies. And all you got to do is bring them out every once in a while, polish them up, put them on the turntable, so to speak, and take them out for a spin. It's reinvention. If you guys reinvent yourselves with your current skill set that you have, tapping into the stuff you don't use, and working your tail off to make it work, you will stand out as completely unique in your marketplace. You can do unique things, signature pieces that nobody else does, and they will hire you because of that. They're not going to hire you because just your personality. You could do your job great and have that personality. There's a lot of people that do their job great and have a great personality. You got to do all that and more. You've got to lift up emotional connection is what it's all about. And you can do that by developing your B-side. So now we can use the lessons of music to discover these untapped skills and talents that'll increase productivity, enhance our personality, and lure people, just like that B-side, to us. That's the goal. Lure them in with the unique things that you do. And I am positive if you were to develop your B-sides, you will find the next big hit in your catalog known as life. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.